Jason loved tennis. He wasn't the best, not yet, but he loved the way the fuzzy yellow ball felt hitting his racket, the squeak of his shoes on the court, and the cheers, even if they were mostly from his mom. He dreamed of winning Wimbledon one day, holding the golden trophy high above his head. He was only 12, but he took the game seriously. He practiced every day after school, hitting balls against the garage door until his arm ached. He watched tennis matches on TV, studying the pros, trying to copy their powerful serves and graceful moves. The junior city tournament was a big deal. All the best young players in the area came to compete. Jason was nervous, but also excited. This was his chance to show everyone how much he had improved. The tournament was held at the City Park tennis courts. The courts were surrounded by tall trees, and the air smelled like freshly cut grass. Jason arrived early, eager to warm up. He bounced the ball a few times, took a deep breath, and stepped onto the court. His first match was against a kid named Michael. Michael was taller than Jason and had a confident smirk on his face. Jason tried to ignore him and focus on the game. But as soon as the match started, things began to go wrong. Jason's serves went into the net. His forehand sailed out of bounds. He tripped over his own feet. It was like he had forgotten everything he had learned. Michael, on the other hand, played flawlessly. He hit powerful shots that Jason couldn't return. He moved gracefully around the court, making Jason look clumsy and awkward. The crowd started to murmur. Jason could hear whispers and giggles. He felt his face turning red. He just wanted the match to be over. It was over quickly. Michael won easily, 6-1, 6-0. Jason shook Michael's hand, trying to smile, but his heart was sinking. As he walked off the court, he could hear the other kids laughing. "Look at Jason, the tennis clown," one of them shouted. "He moves like a baby giraffe," another one yelled. Jason's eyes filled with tears. He ran off the court, past his mom, who was trying to comfort him, and didn't stop running until he reached home. He went straight to his room, slammed the door, and threw himself onto his bed. He didn't want to play tennis ever again. The words echoed in Jason's head like a broken record. Tennis clown, baby giraffe. He squeezed his eyes shut, trying to block out the laughter, the pointing fingers, the feeling of utter shame. He couldn't. They were stuck there, playing on repeat. He stayed in his room for the rest of the day, refusing to come out for dinner. His mom knocked on the door, her voice soft with concern. "Jason, honey, are you okay? Can I come in?" "No." Jason mumbled, burying his face in his pillow. He didn't want to see anyone, especially not his mom. He knew she would try to make him feel better, but nothing could erase the humiliation he felt. Later that night, after his mom had gone to bed, Jason crept out of his room. He tiptoed down the stairs and into the living room. The house was dark and quiet. He could hear the crickets chirping outside. He looked around the room, his eyes landing on his tennis racket, leaning against the wall. He picked it up, feeling the familiar grip in his hand. He remembered all the hours he had spent practicing, all the dreams he had had. But now, all he felt was pain. The racket felt heavy, like a burden. He walked over to the trash can and threw it in. The next morning, Jason's mom found the racket in the trash. She didn't say anything, but Jason could see the sadness in her eyes. He knew he had hurt her, but he couldn't bring himself to care. He was too busy hurting himself. He stopped going to tennis practice. He stopped watching tennis on TV. He stopped talking about tennis altogether. It was like the sport had never existed in his life. His friends tried to get him to play other games, but Jason wasn't interested. He just wanted to be left alone. He spent most of his time in his room, reading books or listening to music. He felt like he was disappearing, fading away. One day, he overheard his parents talking in the kitchen. "He's just so down," his mom said. "I don't know what to do." He used to be so happy, so full of life. He'll get over it, his dad said. It was just a game. It wasn't just a game to him, his mom replied, her voice sharp. It was his passion. And now it's gone. Jason felt a pang of guilt. He knew his parents were worried about him. He knew he was being unfair to them. But he couldn't help it. He was lost in his own pain, unable to see beyond it. He needed to escape the whispers, the memory of that awful day. He needed to find a way to become someone new, someone who wouldn't be laughed at. Someone strong. He just didn't know how. The turning point came not long after. Jason was flipping through channels on TV, bored and restless, when he stumbled upon a documentary about Michael Jordan. It wasn't just about his basketball skills, it was about his relentless dedication, his refusal to give up, and the countless hours he spent perfecting his game. One quote from Jordan struck Jason like a lightning bolt: "I've failed over and over and over again in my life. And that is why I succeed." Jason thought about that quote for days. He realized that everyone fails. Even the greatest athletes in the world had faced setbacks and defeats. The difference was that they didn't let those failures define them. They used them as motivation to get better. He also remembered something his grandfather used to say: "The best revenge is success." That's when Jason made a decision. He wasn't going to let those kids at the tournament win. He wasn't going to let their cruel words destroy his dream. He was going to prove them wrong. He was going to become the best tennis player he could be. But he knew he couldn't do it alone. He needed a plan. He needed a coach. And he needed a place to train. He started by researching tennis academies online. He found one that looked promising, located a few hours away from his town. It was expensive, but he convinced his parents to let him try it out for a summer. He promised them he would work hard and make them proud. The academy was tough. The training was intense. The other kids were all highly skilled and competitive. Jason felt intimidated at first, but he didn't let that stop him. He pushed himself harder than he ever had before. He woke up before dawn every morning to run drills. He spent hours on the court, practicing his serves, his forehands, his backhands. He lifted weights to build his strength. He watched videos of professional tennis players to study their techniques. He also worked with a sports psychologist to improve his mental game. He learned how to stay focused under pressure, how to manage his emotions, and how to believe in himself. It wasn't easy. There were days when he felt like giving up. Days when his body ached and his mind was exhausted. But he kept going, fueled by his determination and his desire to prove his doubters wrong. He would show them he wasn't a tennis clown, or a baby giraffe. He would show them what he was really made of. He would become unstoppable. For years, Jason vanished from the local tennis scene. People asked his mom about him at the grocery store. "Oh, Jason. He's busy," she'd say with a tight smile, never elaborating. The truth was, Jason was a ghost, haunting the academy's courts, pushing himself to the absolute limit. The sun wasn't even up when Jason's alarm clock blared at 5 a.m. He'd stumble out of bed, muscles aching from the previous day's training, and pull on his running shoes. The air was crisp and cold as he ran laps around the tennis courts, the only sound his own heavy breathing. After the run, it was straight to the weight room. Jason, once scrawny and awkward, now attacked the weights with a ferocity he never knew he possessed. He grunted with effort as he lifted barbells, each rep building strength and confidence. Then came the endless hours on the court. His coach, a stern but supportive woman named Ms. Evans, would put him through grueling drills. "Again, Jason. Faster feet. Snap your wrist," she'd yell, her voice echoing across the empty courts. Jason would practice his serve until his arm felt like it was going to fall off. He'd hit forehands and backhands until his hands were blistered. He'd run sprints until his lungs burned. He wasn't just practicing, he was rebuilding himself. He was correcting his clumsy form, honing his skills, and developing a mental toughness that would be unbreakable. He spent hours analyzing videos of Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal, studying their footwork, their shot selection, and their mental strategies. He'd then try to emulate their moves on the court, pushing himself to match their level of excellence. There were times when he wanted to quit. Times when the pain was too much to bear. Times when he felt like he was making no progress. But then he would remember the laughter, the humiliation, and the burning desire to prove everyone wrong. That would give him the strength to keep going. He missed birthdays, holidays, and school events. His social life dwindled to almost nothing. But he didn't care. He was on a mission. He was transforming himself from a clumsy kid into a tennis machine. Years passed in a blur of sweat, pain, and relentless training. Jason's body transformed. He grew taller, stronger, and more athletic. His tennis skills improved dramatically. He developed a powerful serve, a precise forehand, and an unbreakable backhand. But more importantly, he developed a mental toughness that would be his greatest weapon. He learned how to stay calm under pressure, how to focus on the present moment, and how to believe in himself, even when things got tough. He was no longer the tennis clown. He was a force to be reckoned with. He was ready to return. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Asterisk, the following section is formatted to evoke a montage sequence. Short, impactful descriptions are used to convey the passage of time and the intensity of Jason's training. Star. Dawn breaks. Jason runs. Footfalls pounding on the asphalt. Breath misting in the cold air. Legs burning. He pushes through the pain. Weight room. Iron clangs. Muscles bulge. Sweat drips. He struggles with a heavy barbell. One more rep, he grits his teeth. Tennis court. Sun blazing. Ball machine spitting out balls relentlessly. Forehand. Backhand. Serve. Repeat. 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 His arm aches. His hand is raw. He doesn't stop. Ms. Evans' voice echoes. Faster. Higher. More spin. He obeys. He adjusts. He improves. Video analysis. Federer's fluid motion. Nadal's ferocious power. He studies every detail. He tries to copy their moves. Sports psychologist's office. Visualize success. Control your emotions. Believe in yourself. He closes his eyes. He imagines winning. Late night. Empty court. Moonlight illuminates the lines. He hits serves in the dark. The ball whistles through the air. He feels the connection. Rainy day. Indoor court. The sound of the ball echoing in the cavernous space. He practices his footwork. He moves with agility and grace. Injury. A twisted ankle. Pain shoots through his leg. He wants to quit. But he remembers the laughter. He ices the ankle. He rests. He recovers. Frustration. A string of missed shots. He throws his racket in anger. Ms. Evans scolds him. He apologizes. He learns to control his temper. Breakthrough. A perfect serve. An unstoppable forehand. He feels the power coursing through his veins. He smiles. More training. More sweat. More pain. But also, more progress. More confidence. More belief. Months turn into years. Jason transforms. He is no longer the same person. He is stronger, faster, and more determined than ever before. He is ready. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Years later, the City Park tennis courts looked exactly the same. The tall trees still surrounded the courts, casting long shadows in the afternoon sun. The air still smelled like freshly cut grass. But everything else had changed. A young man walked through the gates, carrying a tennis bag slung over his shoulder. He was tall and muscular, with a confident stride and a focused gaze. It was Jason, but he was almost unrecognizable. The awkward, clumsy kid was gone, replaced by a seasoned athlete. He stopped at the edge of the court where he had suffered his devastating loss years ago. He closed his eyes for a moment, remembering the humiliation, the laughter, the pain. But this time, he didn't feel fear or shame. He felt determination. He opened his eyes and stepped onto the court. He bounced the ball a few times, took a deep breath, and began to warm up. His movements were fluid and precise, his shots powerful and accurate. He was a completely different player. People stopped to watch him. They whispered to each other, wondering who this mysterious newcomer was. Some of them recognized him, but they couldn't believe it was the same Jason who had been the laughingstock of the tournament years ago. He ignored the stares and the whispers. He was focused on his goal. He was here to prove himself. He was here to reclaim his dream. He had entered the City Open, a tournament for players of all ages and skill levels. He knew it wouldn't be easy. He would be facing experienced adults, many of whom had been playing tennis for years. But he was confident in his abilities. He knew he had what it takes to win. As he warmed up, he noticed a familiar face watching him from the sidelines. It was Michael, the kid who had defeated him so easily years ago. Michael was older now, taller and more muscular, but Jason recognized his confident smirk. Michael walked over to Jason, a look of amusement on his face. "Well, he said. "Look who's back. I thought you had given up on tennis." Jason looked Michael in the eye, his expression unwavering. "I did," he said. "But I decided to give it another shot." Michael chuckled. "Good luck with that," he said. "You're going to need it." Jason smiled. "Maybe," he said. "But I'm not the same player I was before." Michael raised an eyebrow. "We'll see about that," he said. "I'm still the best player in this town." "Maybe you are," Jason said. "But I'm coming for your title." And with that, Jason turned and walked back onto the court, ready to begin his quest for redemption. The years of training, the sweat, the tears, it all came down to this. It was time to show everyone what he was capable of. It was time to show them the new Jason. Michael wasn't just a rival, he was a symbol. He represented everything Jason had been: arrogant, complacent, and ultimately, unprepared. He was a mirror reflecting Jason's past weaknesses, the flaws Jason had worked tirelessly to eradicate. Michael exuded an air of effortless superiority. He still possessed that cocky smirk, the one that used to send shivers of self-doubt down Jason's spine. He relied on natural talent, on the easy wins he had always enjoyed. He hadn't bothered to push himself, to truly master the game. He was comfortable in his perceived dominance, unaware of the storm brewing beneath the surface. Jason watched Michael play his first match in the City Open. Michael was flashy, hitting powerful shots with apparent ease. The crowd loved him. He was the hometown hero, the guy everyone expected to win. But Jason saw the flaws. Michael's footwork was sloppy. His backhand was weak. His mental game was non-existent. Jason knew that if he could exploit those weaknesses, he had a chance. More than that, Michael represented the path Jason could have taken. The easy path of coasting on natural ability, never truly challenging himself. If Jason hadn't suffered that humiliating defeat, if he hadn't been forced to confront his own shortcomings, he might have ended up just like Michael, talented but ultimately unfulfilled. The tournament progressed, and both Jason and Michael advanced through the rounds. Jason played with a quiet intensity, his movements precise and efficient. He didn't show off or try to impress anyone. He simply focused on playing his best tennis. Michael, on the other hand, reveled in the attention. He trash-talked his opponents, showboated after winning points, and generally acted like he was the star of the show. The crowd ate it up, but Jason remained unfazed. As they both moved closer to the final, the tension in the air grew thicker. People started talking about the inevitable showdown between Jason and Michael. It was the classic underdog story, the tale of redemption, the battle between hard work and natural talent. For Jason, it wasn't just about winning the tournament. It was about proving to himself that he had overcome his past. It was about showing Michael, and everyone else who had ever doubted him, that he was capable of achieving anything he set his mind to. It was about facing his demons and emerging victorious. Michael represented those demons. He was the embodiment of Jason's past failures, the doubts that still lingered in the back of his mind. To beat Michael was to silence those doubts, to bury the past, and to finally embrace his future. He had to prove, both to himself and to the world, that he was no longer that clumsy kid who was laughed off the court. He was a champion in the making. Son's first few matches in the City Open were a revelation. He moved across the court with a grace and power that surprised everyone. His serves were like rockets, his forehands like laser beams. He was a tennis machine, dismantling his opponents with ruthless efficiency. In his first match, he faced a seasoned veteran, a man who had been playing tennis for over 30 years. The veteran tried to use his experience and guile to outsmart Jason, but Jason was too strong, too fast, and too focused. He won easily, 6-2, 6-1. The crowd started to take notice. They whispered about Jason's incredible transformation, his newfound skills, and his quiet determination. They wondered if he was the real deal, or just a flash in the pan. In his second match, he faced a young up-and-comer, a kid who was known for his aggressive style and his never-say-die attitude. The kid pushed Jason to his limit, but Jason refused to back down. He matched the kid's intensity, returning every shot with equal force. He won a hard-fought match, 7-5, 6-4. With each victory, Jason's confidence grew. He started to believe that he could actually win the tournament. He started to dream of holding the trophy, of silencing his doubters, and of finally proving himself. He focused on his pre-match rituals, visualization, stretching, and deep breathing. He reminded himself of all the hard work he had put in, all the sacrifices he had made. He told himself that he was ready. His third match was against a player who was known for his tricky shots and his ability to disrupt his opponent's rhythm. Jason had to be patient and disciplined, waiting for the right opportunities to attack. He won a close match, 6-4, 7-6, 7-5. The semi-final match was his toughest test yet. He faced a powerful server who was ranked among the top players in the region. Jason had to weather the storm, absorbing the server's blistering shots and waiting for his chance to break through. He dug deep, fighting for every point, and eventually prevailed in a three-set thriller, 4-6, 7-6, 7-2, 6-3. As he walked off the court after the semi-final victory, the crowd erupted in applause. They were cheering for him, believing in him, and supporting him all the way. He felt a surge of gratitude and determination. He looked up at the stands and saw his parents, their faces beaming with pride. He smiled at them, knowing that he had finally made them proud. He had come a long way from that day when he had run off the court in tears. He was no longer that little boy. He was a contender. He was ready for the final. He was ready to face Michael. The tension was palpable. Everyone knew that the final match would be epic. A battle for the ages. And Jason was ready to fight. The day of the final arrived with a buzz of anticipation. The City Park tennis courts were packed. People were crammed into every available space, standing on tiptoes, peering through fences, all eager to witness the epic showdown between Jason and Michael. The atmosphere was electric. The crowd was a mix of Jason's newfound supporters and Michael's loyal followers. There were banners and signs, cheers and jeers, a palpable sense of excitement and tension. Jason walked onto the court, his face calm and focused. He ignored the noise and the commotion, focusing on his breathing, on his game plan, on his goal. He knew that this was the biggest match of his life, but he wasn't intimidated. He was ready. Michael followed, basking in the adulation of the crowd. He waved to his fans, blew kisses, and flashed his trademark smirk. He seemed confident, almost cocky, but Jason could see a flicker of nervousness in his eyes. The umpire announced the players, and the match began. The first few games were tight, a back-and-forth battle of wills. Michael came out strong, hitting powerful serves and aggressive forehands. Jason absorbed the pressure, returning every shot with precision and control. The crowd roared with every point, their energy fueling the players. Jason won the first game, but Michael quickly responded, breaking Jason's serve in the second game. The score was tied, 1-1. The next few games were a seesaw battle, with both players holding serve. Michael relied on his power and his flashy shots, while Jason relied on his consistency and his mental toughness. The score was tied, 3-3. In the seventh game, Jason made a crucial mistake, double faulting on a break point. Michael seized the opportunity, breaking Jason's serve and taking a 4-3 lead. The crowd erupted in cheers, sensing that Michael was gaining the upper hand. Jason tried to remain calm, but he could feel the pressure mounting. He knew that he needed to break back quickly if he wanted to stay in the set. Michael held serve in the next game, extending his lead to 5-3. Jason was now serving to stay in the set. The pressure was immense. He took a deep breath and focused on his serve. He hit a perfect ace, winning the first point. He won the next 3 points, holding serve and reducing Michael's lead to 5-4. But Michael was too strong, too experienced, too confident. He held serve in the 10th game, winning the first set, 6-4. The crowd went wild, chanting Michael's name. Jason walked to his bench, his head down, feeling a wave of disappointment wash over him. He had lost the first set. He was behind. He needed to find a way to turn things around. The match was far from over. He just needed to remember everything he had learned, everything he had worked for, and everything he had to prove. He needed to dig deep and find the strength to fight back. He had to remember why he was here. He had to remember the laughter. He had to remember the pain. And he had to remember that he was no longer that little boy who was laughed off the court. He was a warrior. He was a champion. And he was not going to give up. Sitting on the bench, Jason felt a familiar wave of self-doubt creeping in. The memory of his disastrous loss years ago flashed before his eyes. He could almost hear the laughter, the taunts, the whispers of tennis clown and baby giraffe. No, he muttered to himself, shaking his head. I'm not that kid anymore. But the doubts persisted. What if he choked? What if he couldn't handle the pressure? What if he was destined to fail again? He looked up at the crowd and saw some of the kids who had mocked him years ago. They were older now, but he recognized their faces. They were smirking, as if they were waiting for him to fall apart. He could feel their eyes on him, judging him, expecting him to fail. The pressure became almost unbearable. He started to feel his old clumsiness returning. His movements became stiff and awkward. He double faulted again. He missed easy shots. Michael, sensing Jason's vulnerability, turned up the heat. He started trash-talking, trying to rattle Jason even more. What's wrong, Jason? He sneered. Are you choking? Are you going to cry again? The crowd gasped. Michael's words were cruel and unnecessary. But they had the desired effect. Jason's confidence crumbled. He felt like he was shrinking, becoming that small, insecure kid again. He lost the first 2 games of the second set, falling behind 0-2. The match was slipping away. He was on the verge of collapse. He looked up at his parents, their faces etched with concern. He didn't want to disappoint them. He didn't want to let them down. But he didn't know what to do. He was lost, confused, and afraid. Then, he remembered something Ms. Evans, his coach, had told him: when you face setbacks, don't let them define you. Use them as motivation to fight harder. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and tried to block out the noise, the pressure, and the doubts. He focused on the present moment, on the next point, on the task at hand. He remembered all the hours he had spent training, all the sacrifices he had made, all the progress he had achieved. He reminded himself that he was stronger, faster, and more determined than ever before. He opened his eyes, his gaze firm and resolute. He was ready to fight. He was ready to prove himself. He was ready to overcome his insecurities and reclaim his destiny. He would not let Michael, or anyone else, define him. He was Jason, and he was a champion in the making. He would not give up. He would not back down. He would fight until the very end. He was ready to rewrite his story. Sun stepped back onto the court, a new fire burning in his eyes. He remembered Ms. Evans' words, not just about setbacks, but about the power of focus. He closed his eyes briefly, picturing the countless hours of drills, the sweat, the pain, the relentless pursuit of perfection. He wasn't just relying on raw talent, he had earned this moment. He refocused on his breathing, slowing his heart rate, clearing his mind. He looked at Michael, not with fear or resentment, but with a calm determination. He knew Michael was a good player, but he also knew his weaknesses. He knew he could exploit them. The next game was crucial. Jason served, hitting a powerful ace that Michael couldn't touch. The crowd gasped. Jason followed with another strong serve, forcing Michael into a weak return. Jason pounced on the ball, hitting a blistering forehand winner down the line. The score was 15-0. He continued to attack, using his speed and agility to cover every inch of the court. He mixed up his shots, keeping Michael off balance. He broke Michael's serve, winning the game and reducing Michael's lead to 2-1. The momentum had shifted. The crowd sensed it. They started cheering for Jason, their voices growing louder with each point. He could feel their energy fueling him, giving him strength. He held his own serve, tying the score at 2-2. Michael started to look frustrated. He was no longer in control of the match. He was starting to make mistakes. Jason continued to press his advantage, attacking Michael's weak backhand, forcing him to run, making him uncomfortable. He broke Michael's serve again, taking a 3-2 lead. The crowd was going wild. They were chanting Jason's name, believing that he could pull off the comeback. He could feel their support, their encouragement, their belief. He held his own serve, extending his lead to 4-2. Michael called for a trainer, complaining of a sore shoulder. Jason ignored the delay, staying focused on his game. When play resumed, Jason continued to dominate. He broke Michael's serve again, taking a 5-2 lead. He was now serving for the set. He took a deep breath, remembering everything he had learned, everything he had worked for, and everything he had to prove. He was no longer that little boy who was laughed off the court. He was a warrior. He was a champion. And he was not going to give up. He served, hitting a powerful shot that Michael couldn't return. The crowd erupted in cheers. Jason had won the second set, 6-2. The match was tied, 1-all. The comeback was complete. The tide had turned. The final set would be a battle for the ages. And Jason was ready to fight. He was ready to win. He was ready to rewrite his story. He was unstoppable. The final set was a nail-biter. Both Jason and Michael fought with every ounce of energy they had. The score went back and forth, each player refusing to give an inch. The crowd was on its feet, cheering and screaming with every point. At 5-5, the tension was almost unbearable. It felt like the whole town was holding its breath. Michael served. Jason returned. A long rally ensued, both players hitting powerful shots, testing each other's limits. Finally, Michael hit a weak shot that landed short in the court. Jason saw his opportunity. He sprinted towards the ball, his eyes locked on the target. Slow motion begins. He leaped into the air, his body perfectly aligned, his racket cocked back. He swung with all his might, connecting with the ball at the sweet spot. The ball screamed off his racket, a yellow blur hurtling towards the opposite court. It sailed just inches above the net, a perfect trajectory, a testament to years of practice. Michael lunged for the ball, but it was too late. He stretched his racket out, but the ball whizzed past him, landing just inside the line. Slow motion ends. The umpire shouted, "Game, set, match." Jason wins. The crowd exploded. People were jumping up and down, hugging each other, screaming with joy. Banners waved, horns blared, and the sound of applause filled the air. Jason stood frozen for a moment, his racket still in his hand, his eyes wide with disbelief. He had done it. He had won. He had conquered his demons. He had rewritten his story. He dropped his racket and raised his arms in triumph. The crowd roared even louder, their cheers washing over him like a tidal wave. He looked up at his parents, their faces wet with tears of joy. He smiled at them, knowing that he had finally made them proud. He walked over to the net and shook Michael's hand. Michael looked dejected, but he managed a weak smile. "Good game, Jason," he said. "You played great." Jason nodded. "Thanks, Michael," he said. "You too." He turned to the crowd and raised his arms again. "Thank you," he shouted. "Thank you all for your support." The crowd chanted his name, Jason. 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 He had come full circle. He had returned to the same court where he had suffered his devastating loss years ago. But this time, he was not the tennis clown or the baby giraffe. He was a champion. He was a hero. He was an inspiration. And he had done it with hard work, determination, and an unwavering belief in himself. He had proven that anything is possible if you never give up on your dreams. And his journey was just beginning. After shaking Michael's hand at the net, Jason noticed that Michael was still down, kneeling on the court, head hung low. The disappointment was etched on his face. Jason, remembering the sting of defeat from years ago, felt a pang of empathy. He knew what Michael was going through. He had been there himself. He walked back to Michael and extended his hand. "Come on, Michael," he said, his voice gentle. "Get up." Michael looked up, surprised. He hesitated for a moment, then took Jason's hand. Jason pulled him to his feet. "You played a great match, Michael," Jason said, looking him in the eye. "You're a tough competitor. I respect that." Michael managed a weak smile. "Thanks, Jason," he said. "You too. You were just better today." Jason clapped Michael on the shoulder. "Don't give up, Michael," he said. "You have a lot of talent. Just keep working hard, and you'll get there." The crowd, witnessing Jason's act of sportsmanship, erupted in applause once again. They were not just cheering for his victory, they were cheering for his character. Jason's gesture was more than just a simple act of kindness. It was a symbol of his transformation. He had not only overcome his own demons, but he had also learned to respect his rivals, even in defeat. He understood that winning was not everything. It was about the journey, the struggle, the growth, and the relationships that you built along the way. He also knew that true victory was not about humiliating your opponents, it was about lifting them up, encouraging them, and inspiring them to be their best. Jason's act of sportsmanship was a reminder that sports could be more than just a competition. It could be a platform for building character, promoting respect, and inspiring others to achieve their dreams. As Jason walked off the court, surrounded by the cheers of the crowd, he knew that he had achieved something truly special. He had not just won a tennis tournament, he had won the hearts of the people. He had shown them that anything is possible if you believe in yourself, work hard, and never give up on your dreams. He had shown them the true meaning of sportsmanship. And he had become an inspiration to everyone who had ever faced adversity. He was a champion, both on and off the court. And his journey was just beginning. What Jason didn't know was that someone in the crowd had been recording the final point and his act of sportsmanship. The video was quickly uploaded to social media, and within hours, it went viral. The video spread like wildfire, shared and retweeted by thousands of people around the world. News outlets picked up the story, highlighting Jason's incredible comeback and his inspiring display of sportsmanship. The comments section exploded with positive messages. People were praising Jason for his hard work, his determination, and his humility. They were calling him a role model, a hero, and an inspiration. "This is what sports is all about," one person wrote. "Jason is a true champion, both on and off the court." "What an amazing comeback story," another person commented. "Jason never gave up on his dreams, and he showed us that anything is possible if you believe in yourself." Jason's act of sportsmanship was so touching, a third person wrote. "It shows that true victory is not about humiliating your opponents, it's about lifting them up and inspiring them to be their best." The video even caught the attention of some professional tennis players, who praised Jason for his talent and his character. "This kid is going places," one tennis star tweeted. "He has the skills, the determination, and the heart of a champion." The impact of the video was immediate and profound. Jason's story resonated with people of all ages and backgrounds, inspiring them to pursue their dreams, overcome their challenges, and treat others with kindness and respect. Kids who had been bullied started to believe in themselves. Adults who had given up on their goals started to dream again. People who had lost hope started to find it again. Jason became a symbol of hope and inspiration, a reminder that anything is possible if you believe in yourself, work hard, and never give up on your dreams. He received messages from people all over the world, thanking him for sharing his story and for inspiring them to be better versions of themselves. He was overwhelmed by the outpouring of support and love. He never imagined that his victory could have such a profound impact on so many people. He realized that his journey was not just about him. It was about something bigger, something more meaningful. It was about inspiring others to achieve their dreams, to overcome their challenges, and to make the world a better place. He knew that he had a responsibility to use his platform to spread positivity, to promote sportsmanship, and to encourage others to never give up on their dreams. He was ready to embrace that responsibility. He was ready to be a role model. He was ready to be an inspiration. He was ready to change the world. One point, one act of kindness, one video at a time. In the days and weeks that followed, Jason found himself reflecting on his journey. He thought about the humiliation he had felt after that first loss, the years of grueling training, the doubts he had overcome, and the victory he had finally achieved. He realized that the true victory was not just about winning the match against Michael. It was about something much deeper, something much more meaningful. It was about overcoming his past self. It was about conquering his insecurities and fears. It was about transforming himself from a clumsy, insecure kid into a confident, determined young man. He understood that the journey had been more important than the destination. It was the struggles, the challenges, and the setbacks that had shaped him, that had made him who he was today. He had learned that failure was not the end, it was just an opportunity to learn and grow. He had learned that success was not about talent, it was about hard work, dedication, and perseverance. He had also learned that true happiness was not about winning, it was about helping others, inspiring others, and making a positive impact on the world. He thought about Michael, his rival. He realized that Michael had played an important role in his journey. Michael had been the catalyst that had pushed him to become better, to work harder, and to never give up. He understood that Michael was not his enemy, he was his motivator. He was grateful for Michael's challenge, for his competitiveness, and for his respect. He realized that he had learned as much from his losses as he had from his victories. He had learned that it was important to be humble in victory and gracious in defeat. He had also learned that it was important to respect your opponents, to treat them with kindness and compassion, and to remember that they are human beings just like you. Jason's journey had taught him valuable lessons about life, about sports, and about himself. He had learned that anything is possible if you believe in yourself, work hard, and never give up on your dreams. He had learned that true victory is not about winning, it's about becoming the best version of yourself. And he was grateful for every step of the way. He knew his journey was far from over, but now he had the tools, the mindset, and the heart to face any challenge that came his way. He was ready to continue his journey, to continue growing, and to continue inspiring others to achieve their dreams. He was ready to be a champion, both on and off the court. And he was just getting started. Years later, Jason was a regular fixture at the City Park tennis courts, but not as a competitor. He was there to mentor younger players, sharing his story and inspiring them to persevere. He worked with kids of all ages and skill levels, from beginners who were just learning the basics to advanced players who were hoping to compete at the highest levels. He taught them the fundamentals of the game, the importance of hard work and dedication, and the value of sportsmanship. But more importantly, he taught them about the power of believing in themselves. He shared his own story, his own struggles, and his own triumphs. He told them about the humiliation he had felt after that first loss, the years of grueling training, the doubts he had overcome, and the victory he had finally achieved. He wanted them to know that anything is possible if you believe in yourself, work hard, and never give up on your dreams. He wanted them to understand that failure is not the end, it's just an opportunity to learn and grow. He also emphasized the importance of sportsmanship, teaching them to respect their opponents, to treat them with kindness and compassion, and to remember that they are human beings just like them. He showed them that true victory is not about humiliating your opponents, it's about lifting them up, encouraging them, and inspiring them to be their best. He became a role model for the younger players, a source of inspiration and encouragement. He helped them to develop their skills, their confidence, and their character. He watched with pride as his students achieved their own successes, both on and off the court. He saw them win tournaments, earn scholarships, and become leaders in their communities. He knew that he was making a difference in their lives, helping them to become better players, better people, and better citizens. He had come full circle. He had returned to the same courts where he had suffered his devastating loss years ago. But this time, he was not the tennis clown or the baby giraffe. He was a mentor, a teacher, and an inspiration. He had transformed his pain into purpose, his struggles into strength, and his failures into fuel. He had become a champion, not just on the court, but in life. As he watched his students practice, their faces filled with determination and joy, he knew that his journey was far from over. He was ready to continue mentoring, to continue inspiring, and to continue making a positive impact on the world. He was ready to be a champion, both on and off the court. And he was just getting started. The legacy of Jason, the tennis player who turned humiliation into triumph, would live on through the countless young lives he touched, one lesson, one act of kindness, one inspiring story at a time. The end.